Hi guys, John here. This video today is going to be a little different and it's going to be a how-to care video. I've been getting a lot of questions through personal Facebook messages and on my comments, some of them of how to care for corals, and this video today is specifically going to involve anemones. I might say anemones are my favorite coral. Although they're not really a coral, in a way, to me they are. They're like the plants of the sea. But I know they're not technically a coral. They are a living animal with a mouth and can move. And I just wanted to go over what you need and what they're like in general. I'll cover like the age, lighting, tank size, feeding, bubbling, and hosting clowns and stuff like that. So for you guys that have been following me, I have an Aqua One Mini Reef 120, and it at the moment, where you guys were left off, I had one bubble tip anemone. Now, through after Christmas, this is the 1st of January today, so Happy New Year. Over the Christmas break, I have recently got 2 new anemones. I have gotten a bubble tip, another small bubble tip, which is in that container. I'll touch on what's happening with that anemone, and you can't see the anemone, but I'll show you in a minute. It's a sea bay anemone. Now, to start off with, I just like to say anemones are quite easy and hard to care for at the same time. I have a very much a love-hate relationship with anemones, as like I said, they're one of my favorite animals, you can say, of the ocean, and but they're in a way challenging to keep. For someone that is just gone into the aquarium hobby, I might say I've been very lucky with the anemone that I have gotten. It is a green bubble tip anemone, and it was introduced into the tank around 2 months old. My tank is now officially up and running. It's been up and running for 5 months now, and I really only tell people to maybe get an anemone after maybe the first 3 to 5 months, only due to the fact that the first 3 to 5 months, or the first like 5 months of your tank being running, you're mucking around with water parameters, quality, quantity, masses, proteins, stuff in the water, and you're trying to find that sweet spot. And anemones, and may I say all corals, don't like to change, and I don't think they'd very much appreciate that being said. But that being also said, that I think I found my sweet spot very early on in my tank cycling process at around, like I said, 2 months old. So that was all I'd like to say about age. As long as your tank is stable and nothing is suddenly dying out of the blue, I would not recommend putting an anemone in straight away unless you get your water quality under control. Because if an anemone can live, it usually is said that most other coral can live. Now I would also like to talk about tank lighting. Anemones do well under the majority to all aquarium lights. I right now have them under LEDs. I'll just get a closer pic of the anemone. I have them under a Aqua Illumination Prime. It is a very affordable and handy LED. It holds 13 LED diodes, and it is all Wi-Fi connected, and as you can see, it gives a great spread on the tank, and all the coral and fish are thriving under this light. They all enjoy the light, and I've seen a very big growth enhancements since putting the lights only a month and a half ago. All the coral have coloured up nicer and have been fuller in general. So like I said about lighting, all anemones really need is moderate to intense lighting. I had them, this anemone standard under the Aqua One Mary Glow light for a period of time, and it didn't do so well. As you can see, it lost its bubbles. I'll touch on why that they lose the bubbles in a minute, although it's not necessarily all true. But LEDs do a great job of keeping anemones, and they are probably one of my favorite lighting options, as you've just got such a wide array of controllability. Now when it comes down to feeding anemones, I'll just show you one of the new ones. This is a sea bay anemone, for you guys that do not know, and I'll touch on the colors of this one in a little bit. Now, with feeding anemones, or tank mates, I'd say, anemones will realistically grab anything that floats near them, taking away clownfish, of course, because they live together. But my anemone has taken a fish from me, a fire goby, and that is real saying that they can be quite a nasty animal in the tank, but as long as you're feeding them on a regular and constant basis, they should be fine. In terms of what you should feed anemones, it ranges from mysis shrimp to just the regular fish food. I personally feed my anemone a small piece of squid tube. So you can just buy that at the butcher or supermarket, just a frozen squid tube. I cut it up into small pieces, and then every couple of days I feed the anemone. You don't need to feed an anemone a lot. If you see it pooping or something, half the food being released from the mouth, it's giving the idea it's a bit too much for the actual anemone to hold. So you can also feed them small shrimp or prawns, as we like to call them in Australia, and sardines and sprats, and little dried or frozen fish that you can buy at the fish markets and stuff like that. They readily eat. Now, I'd like to touch a little upon bubbling of the anemones. Anemones are obviously, some are known for their bubbles. This anemone, where the clowns are, when I bought it, initially did have bubbles, but it lost it. There are quite a few theories on why anemones choose to keep and lose their bubbles, but it's not fully understood as of yet. But there has been some theories that I think are more or less true, like lighting. Anemones either choose to photosynthesize, or which is take sunlight to produce, just give them energy and life, or they choose to be stringy and their tentacles out. That said and done, after I have added the new aquarium LED to the tank, this anemone has not bubbled up as of yet, but I'm hoping the bubbles do come soon. Like I said, this is a green bubble tip anemone, and it had full bulbs or bubbles when I initially got it, but over the course of around 3-4 months under the not so good LEDs, it kind of deteriorated. Although anemones that don't have bubbles, a bubble tip anemone that doesn't have bubbles doesn't exactly say it's unhealthy at all. Now I'd also just like to show you my new anemones that I have recently purchased. I have, like I said, purchased another bubble tip anemone and a sea bay anemone, or a crisper anemone. I'll start by showing you this crisper anemone, which is see if it focuses the light. This light's just seems to be messing around a bit. I'll see if I can maybe get some other light on this fella. Okay, I'll just see if I can. I'll show you the new bubble tip anemone. So this bubble tip anemone is a very nice and healthy bubble tip anemone. It has full bulbs and is doing great. The reason why you're seeing it in a breeder box or a fish keeper box is because it actually had a torn foot when I accidentally ripped it off a rock, and it was stuck to that. That's another problem when having anemones. They like to move, and they're almost like a child that does what they want, and you have to deal with it. I chose not to deal with it and move it, and that was the consequence of I tore its foot. Now this tear happened around 3 days ago, and it's been in this box ever since that, and I have seen a tremendous increase, or decrease as I'd say, in the wound on the foot as it's eating and regenerating the tissue that was torn. If you can see under there is you can see that a small discoloration just over there, the white area. Sorry about the light, but that white discoloration was the actual tear, and that was fully under the foot, and it's more or less completely healed now. So that is another thing to look out for when having anemones, as they can be quite a nuisance of moving around in that case. I'll just bump these lights up to see if we can see this anemone in that light. Maybe looking at it from the side might help. There you go. Now another thing, it's just got a bit of fish poop in it. Now with an anemone like this, it is white. Anemones do bleach, but this anemone is quite a unique anemone, as it starts off its life more or less white. You can see it has purple tips, so it does still retain some color, but this anemone is not bleached. It's just starting off its life, and I wouldn't say a hard anemone to keep, but they can be difficult if you do not give them sufficient lighting. They are also a very beautiful anemone, and they like to sit on the sand bed and attach to the bottom of your tank, and they grow extremely well if they're under quite intense light. And you may be wondering if that box is covering it, but if you can see, I put my hand over there, you can see that it's shaded, but if I remove it, it's getting quite a substantial amount of light. So these anemones mature to be a golden, or maybe even a light red color with the purple tips, and they are very beautiful when they get to a mature anemone. And that's the reason why I got it. I've been looking at them, and I found they are very beautiful when they get older, and I thought that would be a nice addition to the tank. And that is the reason I chose that anemone, because they are quite stunning. The camera does it no justice. It is a very bright anemone. When you personally look at it in the light, you can't really tell on the camera due to it not focusing as well as I'd want it to. Another thing I'd like to mention is hosting. Clowns are obviously known to host anemones, as everyone may not know from Nemo. Most people, everyone in Australia has seen that movie, and they know that clownfish live in anemones, and they hold a symbiotic relationship together. All this is meaning is that an anemone has stingers on it. No other fish other than clownfish can live in anemones without being stung. Clownfish have a slime coating on their skin, and that causes them not to be stung by the anemone. Along with the anemone protecting the clownfish from predators, the anemone is being benefited by the clownfish, as the clownfish will bring it food and nutrients, as it obviously can't walk as much as, or move around as much as the clownfish can to forage for food. The clownfish will actually bring food to them. I always thought that was quite an interesting thing, and that's why I wanted an anemone in the tank. Now, in terms of trying to get your clowns to host an anemone can be a whole nother issue in itself. My clownfish just automatically took to my anemone, and you hear a lot of cases like that. I bought this anemone, and maybe for the first 3 weeks the clownfish would go near it, would taste it almost. They would stick a tentacle in their mouth, and yeah, I'd consider it, tasting it almost, and they would swim near it. And then one day I got back from school, and the clownfish had hosted the anemone, and both of them were in it and around it, as you can see. And I find that very interesting. A lot of people sometimes do have trouble with getting a clownfish to host an anemone. There's many options. You can actually buy a breeder box like this. As the anemone's in there right now, I can put my clownfish or clownfish in there, and the clownfish will have more or less no reason not to host it, so they'll just go into it. So that's something you can do. You can also scare your clownfish into the anemone. That also works as well. But like I said, I mean, they're pets. You don't really want to be scaring them. Another thing I'd like to go over is flow. As you can see, my tank does not have an extreme high flow rate, and that's due to just the positioning of the power heads and intakes and outtakes. You can see there's a outlet that pushes water from the return back into the tank, and then there is a power head. The outlet at top just pushes water over the top, and it falls down and in a sweeping motion almost. And then this power head pushes water out there and back to a sweeping motion. So there's a good amount of flow. As you can see, the anemone is not being blasted, and it's not being pushed just in one direction. You can see there's a varying flow pattern there, as different currents will move it around differently. And that seems to be the ideal spot of anemones. With moving of the anemones, that can be quite a big issue and problem. As I just said, I accidentally tore a foot of the anemone, and now I have to pay the consequence of it. It could pass away or dramatically decrease in health, but like I said, it's improving every day, and I have no doubt it would survive. But when taking off an anemone from a rock, be very gentle and very careful by don't pick at it. Like this anemone is on a separate rock with a massive hole in there, so it dug its foot in and sucked it to the top or the bottom of the rock. So if I were to get this anemone out, I would obviously pick the anemone up, but if you can't, you can leave it there and irritate it. Irritate it, don't be hurting it, but tickle it. Just make it uncomfortable from where it releases. Now this can take anywhere from 5 minutes to really an hour. Sometimes I've personally never had that problem. My anemones, maybe I'm a little bit too rough, but they come off perfectly easy, other than my new one I got, and they were quite alright. But you can also use the ice cube method, but see, in Australia the ice really doesn't live too long outside or really in the water, as your tank is running usually around 26 degrees, so you have to get ice cube upon ice cube upon ice cube just to irritate an anemone to let go. I don't find that a viable method, but it does work. But the best time to move an anemone is when it's on the move. When it chooses to move, that's the easiest time for you to pluck it up. Maybe just put it in a box, a breeder box, hang it in your sump, float it there, and either give it to your local pet shop or marine shop and trade it in for maybe some store credit, or give it to a fellow reefer. So this is all I'd really like to talk about with anemones. Let me know what's your anemone like, and ask any questions on the comments, or my link of Facebook is in the description. Always happy to answer any animal related questions, either if it's from the bearded dragons or the chickens to the reef tank. Put in the comments what videos you'd like to see next of this tank, any other specific animal or coral related videos. I'd be happy to answer and do videos of that sort. So thanks guys, and bye.